miss out any of the information and you need to watch it back. So I'm going to record the session again as usual. Right, so Assalamualaikum and a very good morning everyone. Welcome back to UMP. How are you?
Good, sir. Good.
Salam. Good morning, sir.
All right, good morning. You sounds like really tired. Okay, all right. Hopefully you are in a good condition. Okay, and yes, we are. Hopefully we are still free from COVID-19. Still free. Okay, all right. Okay. So as beginning of our class for today, as usual, I'm going to check the attendance. Okay. So when I call upon your name, please reply by saying yes. Okay. If I call upon your name, just reply by saying yes. Okay. So we'll start by Muhammad Ridwan bin Latif. Are you here?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. Nurul Jannah.
Yes.
All right. Nick Muhammad Akil.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Muhammad Shahir Imran.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Muhammad Afif bin Ahmad Tamizi.
Yes, sir.
All right. Muhammad Faidil Mubarak.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Muhammad Arif bin Muhammad Masrudin.
Yes, sir.
All right. Said Hazim Ifwat.
Yes, sir.
All right. Israq Aiman Syafiq.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nur Syahidah binti Nur Syahrudin.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Muhammad Ilyas Irfan.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Muhammad Farid Azmirul. Okay. Reply by texting in the chat box. Okay. Muhammad Afiq Nakiuddin.
Yes, sir.
Alright. Muhammad Iqbal Tasnim.
Yo, sir.
Alright. Muhammad Hafizuddin.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nora Natasha. Nora Natasha, are you here?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Alright. Okay. Muhammad Fahmi.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Nurul Izzal.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Sheikh Muhammad Fikri.
Yes, sir.
Alright. Zaharul Danish Idraki.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Ahmad Ishraq, he is the one who quit, right? Class?
Right.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Ahmad Ishraq, right, okay. Wait, give me one moment. Muhammad Amiruddin. Muhammad Amiruddin bin Muhammad Zamri. Muhammad Amiruddin, you are not here. Okay, never mind. Muhammad Aiman.
Yes, sir.
Alright, okay. So altogether today, only one person didn't come to the class. Alright. So I'm going to share my screen just to show you some important things that you need to know regarding our classes. Alright, so I'm now sharing my screen with all of you. Okay. The one that you are looking now is actually the weekly planner. I have shared this in our Telegram group, okay? And also I am just showing it back to you so that you will know about it. Okay, we are now in week 7. So in week 7, we are in a new topic or new chapter, which is process and procedure. Okay, process and procedure. So basically in our first meeting, supposedly we are going to get into the new subtopic, which is introduction to SOP. But since our first meeting was asynchronous class, so therefore I have already asked you to read the notes on standard operating procedure, the PowerPoint slides, and the Microsoft Word. Did you manage to read the notes or the slides, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. So today we're going to discuss in detail about it so that you will have a clear understanding what does it mean by standard operating procedure. Okay, so we are going to look at the definition of SOP, how many types of SOP that we are going to deal with, okay, the format of technical SOP, and then supposedly the first meeting we are going to discuss about your first assessment, and I'm going to do it next week, not this week, okay, because it's going to be very straightforward. You don't have to prepare anything except for the second part, which is on listening, and we are going to do the exercises next week as well. Okay, all right, so that is about the weekly planner. So I have asked you to go to Kalam, okay, under week 7, log into Kalam under week 7. All right, so week 7, module 2, process and procedure over here. All right, so I hope that you have watched this video, short video, why do we need SOP, okay? And then it's very interesting actually on the aspect, why do we need to have SOP or standard operating procedure? Like what we have now, okay, to prevent COVID-19. So you need to follow the SOP, okay? So there must be a reason why do we need to have the SOP. And then we also have the two handouts over here, standard operating procedure, okay, the PowerPoint slides and also the Microsoft Word document. So this is the one that we are going to do or to deal with today. And then after that, during this weekend, okay, I need you to do the reading or further readings, okay, on sentence structure, okay, self-directed learning here, meaning that it is a further reading, and then you can do the exercises on your own afterwards, okay. Next will be on imperatives, okay. Remember that imperatives is going to be command or instructions. And following the self-directed learning on imperatives, okay, we have some examples of SOP using imperative over here. We have the chainsaw operation, nail gun, lawnmower, and tech drill power. Okay, so you can refer to the sample or the examples to know or to further understand how can you use imperative in standard operating procedure. Next, we have exercises on lactating cow, history of underground utility tunnels, and fast alarm. Okay, so each one of the activities over there, all right, will represent the types of SOP that you are going to learn. Okay, so during weekend, you can do this on your own, and inshallah next week, all right, we are going to discuss the answers. Okay, all right, so that will be what you are supposed to do under week 7 and also for during the weekend. Okay, right, so I'll go back to the things that we need to discuss today, which is going to be the PowerPoint slides. Okay, PowerPoint slides. Right. Let me give me one moment. Okay, I'm now going to share my screen using my other device. So just have a look at the PowerPoint slides. All right, just have a look at the PowerPoint slides on standard operating procedure. Okay, on standard operating procedure. Are you looking at the same screen as me? Standard operating procedure?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
The PowerPoint.
All right, okay. So SOP is no longer something new with all of us, okay, or for all of us. So we know more about SOP since COVID-19. Okay, since COVID-19 pandemic that begins in 2019, the end of 2019. So SOP is no longer new. But in this aspect for UHL2452, we are going to look at SOP or standard operating procedure in terms of technical approach. Okay, so we're going to look at SOP in terms of technical approach. Why do we need to have the SOP? Okay, or standard operating procedure. Right, so this is going to be a discussion, a short discussion, okay, for you and also your friends, okay, or maybe your partner, because your second assessment is going to be in pairs or individual, okay. So you need to discuss after you have watched the short video clip that I have shared with you in Kalam. Why do we need SOP? Okay, number one, you discuss among your friends, okay, the importance of having SOP. Why do we need to have the SOP? Okay, normally people go for SOP for two reasons. Number one is for safety. Number two, it is because of cost. Okay, right. So SOP is going to help you to maintain safety. Why? Because it is a standard operating procedure that you need to follow before you perform any task. Okay, so safety is very important. All right. On the other hand, cost is also very important if you are using SOP, because okay, when you use SOP, you are going to follow the certain procedures, and if you follow that certain procedures and it is authenticated, so it means that you are reducing the cost for production, for example. Okay, so when you follow the certain procedures, the correct one, so it will help the company that you are working with to maintain its cost. Okay, so it will be cost effective. Right? Okay. Number two, you need to also discuss, or you can also discuss the best way to follow a certain procedure. Okay. So when you are dealing with SOP, sometimes you have to do the procedure first, then you're going to decide which one is going to be the best method. Okay. For example, you have option A, B, and C. So you have three methods altogether over here. All right, and then you have to use it first. Okay, you have to try A, you have to try method B, you have to try method C. Okay, so after you have tried all of the methods, you found out that C is going to be the most suitable, okay, or applicable. Therefore, you're going to use C, or the method C, as the best way for performing the task. Okay, all right. Then, after you have decided on C, you're going to transfer the procedure into the SOP. Okay, right. Number three, what needs to be in an SOP and why? So nowadays, people prefer to have graphics, okay, or images, so that they can see things clearly. So in SOP, you can have the same thing. Okay, you can have graphics and images plus the instructions. Why am I telling you this? Because for your next assessment, the type of SOP that you are going to deal with will be on graphic operating procedure. Okay, so graphic operating procedure, what is it about? So we're going to discuss about it afterwards. So basically, what is SOP? So SOP, it is a document which describes the operations of a certain work or job in order to ensure its quality. Okay, so quality here meaning that you're going to make sure that the task that you are going to perform using the SOP will be in good condition. Meaning that, okay, the task can be performed correctly, you can avoid any injuries, and at the same time, you can maintain the cost effectiveness of using the production or the method. Okay, remember that SOP is going to be a document, and because of that, okay, let's have a look at the second part over here. It is a set of compulsory instructions or systems or procedures or steps which is written. Okay, so written here refers to the document. Okay, so it must be written, it must be in the form of a document. Okay, so that other individuals can follow to complete the job safely. So SOP, it is not only for you, okay? So later on when you're going to start working, all right, maybe you're going to perform the task in the beginning. And after a while, okay, when you have the SOP with you, so after a while, maybe the other person who will be replacing you to perform the task can follow the same SOP so that they can maintain the safety of the task. Okay, all right. Next, it also maximizes operational and production requirements. Okay, so now we are talking about cost effectiveness. Okay, all right. So you know that when you're going to start working later on, or if you own a company, all right, there will be some cost incurred. Okay, so you need to have the capital. Capital is the modal. Okay, in Malay it is called modal. Okay, no such word of modal in English except for models. Okay, for sentence structure. So it is capital. And then from this capital, you're going to put it into production. Okay, and you're going to talk about salary. So when you have SOP, it will help you to maintain the flow of your money or your capital. Okay, so you follow the SOP or you have the SOP, it will help you to fully utilize the capital that you have to run the production. Okay, and lastly, the purpose of a SOP is to carry out the operations correctly and always in the same manner. Okay, so think of how you are going to replace a flat tire. Okay, can you just take out the flat tire from the car, okay, without unscrewing the nuts? It's not going to happen, right? So you need to follow the procedure. Okay, so first you need to find a proper place to stop, and then you need to switch off the engine, okay, and then you need to pull on the handbrake. So there are certain procedures that you need to follow to change a flat tire. So you're going to do it correctly, and you're going to do it the same manner as the one suggested by the others as well. Okay, so that is just an example of a SOP on how to change a flat tire. Okay, all right. A SOP should be available at the place where the work is performed. So it is going to be at the workplace. Must be at the workplace. Okay. The original should be kept at a secured place, while working copies should be authenticated with stamps and or signatures of the authorized person. Okay, so let's assume that this is the SOP. Okay, so you're going to have 2 copies of it. The original copy will be, for example, you put it at the administrating or admin office. Okay, administration office. All right, so this is going to be the original copy. Then the one that you are going to use at the workplace, okay, all right, you are going to authenticate it with stamps and or signatures. So this next copy is going to be at the, for example, you put it at the production line. Okay, at the production line. Okay, so you need to authenticate it with stamps. Because I'm going to ask you a question. What does it mean by the word stamps? Chop. Yes, correct. Okay. So normally you relate it to the word chop. Okay. For example, sir, I have an important document. Can you please chop it? Okay. But actually, the word that you are using, okay, which is chop over here, is incorrect for the context of authentication. Because if you're asking me, sir, can you please chop this document, you are asking me to take a knife and chop the document. Okay, the correct word is actually stamp. Okay, so remember the word rubber stamp. So next time when you are asking for authentication, you're going to use the word stamp rather than the word chop, because chop, it is not correct. It is wrong in this context. Okay, all right. So next, in the future, sir, could you please stamp my document for authentication? So that is the correct word that you need to use. Okay, not chop but stamp. Right? Okay, so you need to have the authentication in terms of stamping and or the signatures. So if you're going to have the signatures, it is accepted. If you don't have the signatures, it is also accepted. But it is highly recommended you have the stamping together with the signature for the copy of the SOP. Okay. So basically, there are two types of SOP. Number one is technical SOP. Number two is administrative SOP. So let's have a look at administrative SOP first. So it highlights on the administrative processes. Okay, administrative here meaning that it is more on management, such as reviewing contract documentation and determining organizational training needs. So when you are at the office, for example, so the kind of SOP that you are going to deal a lot is going to be administrative SOP. Okay, for example, reviewing contract documentation. So you need to follow the procedures. Okay, number one, what do you need to do? Okay, you look at the contract. Number two, you check on the supplier, for instance. Okay, number three, you're going to have the contract meeting. Okay, then number four, you award the contractor. Okay, for example. So this is on administrative SOP. Okay, all right. The one that we are looking at for UHL2452 and also for you to deal with later on when you're going to start working will be technical SOP. Okay, so technical SOP focuses more on technical activities. Okay, so our main concern is on technical activities, such as how to collect a laboratory sample and how to fix the R2 engine. Okay, so technical SOP will deal with technical activities, and this is what we are looking at for UHL2452, English for vocational purposes. Okay, so the format of technical SOP, the format and length of SOP depend on the steps that are taken to describe the procedures of the work. Okay, so it means that it can be from, the SOP can be from 1 page, okay, up to several pages. Several pages here, maybe 3 to 5 pages, maybe more than 5 pages. Okay, all right. It can be from 1 page up to several pages depending on the steps, okay, that are taken to describe the procedures. So if the procedure require longer steps or many steps, then your SOP will be longer. Okay, all right. So now we are looking at the 3 types of technical SOP. So before this, we talk about 2 types of SOP, and we are looking at technical SOP. And under technical SOP, there are actually 3 types of technical SOP that we are going to look at for UHL2452. Okay, number 1, it is 1-page hierarchical steps. Okay, this is going to be number 1. Graphic procedures such as flowchart here is actually contained of 2 types of SOP. So this is number 2 and flowchart will be number 3. Okay, all right. So an organization will have its own format for SOP, and you can follow the following format as a guide to write your technical SOP. Okay, just to share with all of you, previously we had a meeting with people from the industries. And one of the representatives, okay, was from Mercedes-Benz Pekan. Okay, and then they shared with us, right, the sample of the SOP being used at the plant. Okay, so the template is a bit different from the one that you are going to learn in this course, but the contents are the same. So do not feel surprised, do not feel afraid when you're going to start working later on and you look at the SOP or the template being used at the company may be a bit different from the one that you have learned in UHL2452. So the format can be different or the template can be different, but the contents are the same. So what we are doing for this course is teaching you on how to arrange the information, meaning the contents, and then what are the things that you need to put for each of the components in the template of the SOP. Okay, all right. So you will know on how to manage the contents of the SOP. Regardless, the template will be different from the one that we are sharing with you today. So no worries on that thing, right? Okay, so who can write the SOP? So it can be written by individuals, okay, if you're going to work on your own. So let's say you have been assigned to perform this task, okay, on your own, so you can write the SOP. Or if you are working in a team, right, then you and your team members can also write the SOP, okay. Some examples of using the SOP individually or in a team, okay, we have number one here, shutting down an operation. So if you need to shut down the plant, you need to follow the SOP. Okay. Number two, repairing a faulty electrical circuit. So when you are going to deal with electrical issues or component, of course, to maintain your safety, you need to follow the SOP. All right. For example, okay, I'm going to replace a broken bulb in my house. So can I just simply unscrew the bulb and then I change it? No. All right. So I have to follow the standard operating procedure in replacing the broken bulb. Okay. I have to switch off the main switch. I have to get the ladder. Okay. Put it on a flat place, okay, or surface. And then I have to climb the stair carefully, okay, or the ladder carefully, and then unscrew the bulb. And then I'm going to take it down and bring the new bulb, and then I screw the latest bulb or the new bulb to the housing, for example. So you need to follow the procedure. Okay, right. Number three here, examples, okay. Let's say you own a farm and you have cows in the farm and you need to get the milk. So milking process is actually the process of you getting the milk from the cow, okay? Or maybe number four over here, building a new machine. So the processes given here, examples, are just examples, but basically SOP will be useful for many processes. Okay, who should write SOP? Okay, who should write it? People who will perform and people who has performed the job. Okay, so who will perform here, meaning that, okay, let's say if you have been assigned to perform the task, okay, and there is no SOP yet, okay, so you are going to prepare the SOP. And let's say if you are the one who has performed the job, okay, and there is no SOP yet at the workplace, okay, you have been doing it for like several times, but again, there is no SOP, so you are required to write the SOP. Okay, right. Number two, Okay, people who work together on a job, okay, or they are related to the task given. So let's say if you are in charge of the production line, okay, so all of the individuals involved in production line, for example, the engineers, technicians, maintenance or equipment personnel should be working together to write the SOP for you and your team members, okay, and also for the others who will be performing the task later on, okay. Number 3, so it is going to be for people who will be supervising other people doing the job. Okay, let's say it is a new procedure, all right, and you know how to do the task, okay, you know how to perform the task, so you will create the SOP, and once you have assigned the task to your subordinates, so you can supervise them whether they are following the procedures that you have written in the SOP or not. Okay, right, so that is about the third person who can write the SOP. Number 4, for safety and health officer over here, we are talking about rules and regulations. So to avoid injuries, so there are certain rules and regulations that you have to follow. Okay, so let's say if you are the OSH officer at your workplace later on, so you're going to prepare or you're going to write the SOP so that the others can follow the SOP correctly and avoid any injury. Okay, so that is about safety and health officer. And lastly, technical writers, okay, they are going to write SOP in terms of manual, okay, or they are going to write the SOP in terms of giving feedback or review. Okay, so these are the people who can write or who can prepare the SOP. Okay, but it is not only limited to these people. As long as you know what you are supposed to do and there is no standard operating procedure for the task that you know how to do it at that moment, then you can prepare the SOP. Okay, right, let's move on to the next slide. So who is SOP for? So SOP is going to be useful for the person who will perform a particular job, such as managers, engineers, planners, safety officers, environmental regulators, company representatives, and anybody performing the work. So managers here, you are talking about management. Okay, so let's say if they want to know why we don't have enough capital for running the production, even though that we have followed the procedure. So maybe they can observe the production line, okay, whether they do follow the SOP or not. If they didn't follow the SOP, the production line, then they will know, okay, this is the reason why, okay, the cost will be increasing, for example. Engineers and planners here are the one who will be performing the task. So they need to have the SOP so that they will know what to do, how to do it, and how to make sure that it is going to be safe for them. Okay, safety officers and environmental regulators here, we are talking again about the rules and regulations. Okay, so let's say if you are talking about waste disposal. Okay, can you just straight away flow out the waste disposal from your factory to the nearest drain? No, you need to do something. You need to treat the waste disposal before you can pass it out to the nearest drain. Okay, longkang yang terdekat, for example. Alright, so you need to do some treatment to it. So safety officers and the environmental regulators can observe whether you are following the rules and regulations in performing the task. Okay, Right, company representatives over here will be the same like the one that you are doing or you have done for assessment 1. And for your information, the marks for assessment 1 will be in the system and released to you inshallah within this week or early next week. Okay, so let's say if you are attending an exhibition and then you want to talk more about the services or maybe the product that your company has produced, then you have the SOP to explain more about it. Okay, and lastly, anybody performing the work, okay, and anybody performing the work, it means that whoever will be doing the job, they need to have the SOP to follow the procedure. When to write and test SOP? So you need to write and test it before a job is begun. So if it is a new process, then you need to prepare the SOP and then you test it whether it is applicable or not. Okay, as I have mentioned to you, maybe you have method A, method B, and method C. And then after you have tested it, then you found out that, okay, C is going to be the most applicable. So it goes to number 2 here. Test it before putting it into final application. So you found out that, okay, C is going to be the most suitable for the task. Then you can revise it after a trial of the job is performed. Okay, you use method C, you found out that C is going to be the most suitable, but you need to put some additional information. For example, okay, so that the process or the task can be performed better. So you're going to choose C and then you revise the SOP by putting in the additional information required. Okay, you can also revise the SOP when there is any change to the process or even equipment use. Okay, to the process here, for example, A plus B equal to C. All right, but maybe because of the changes in the machine being used, so before this you use machine A, then after a while the company decided to buy machine B, the new one, so A plus B is no longer C, so maybe in the future it is going to be A plus B plus C equal to D, for example. All right, then you can rewrite the SOP when new information indicates new process. Okay, so as you can see over here, A plus A equals to B, all right? But when you have the new information, okay, A plus B plus C, then you will get D, indicates a new process. So you need to rewrite the SOP, okay? You can also rewrite it when new information suggests new performance. Okay, the same goes as the one stated here. And lastly, update it regularly based on internal and external factors. Okay, internal factors like you are changing the machine. Okay, you are buying a new machine. So the company that you are working with is buying a new machine. Therefore, you need to update the SOP. External factors over here, external factors. For example, you got the raw materials from supplier A before this. Okay, and then suddenly the supplier did not supply the raw materials anymore. So you are finding it from supplier B. Okay, and maybe the materials being used by supplier B will be a bit different. Then you need to update the SOP so that the people who will be performing the task, they know what to do to the raw materials to make sure that the production can be the same. Okay, so this is about when to write and test SOP. Okay, on how to write SOP effectively, use short sentences. Because long sentences will be harder to understand and tend to include more than one step. So avoid long sentences. Okay, short sentences will be easier to understand. Okay, for example, number 1, okay, record the session. Okay, simple sentence, right? Or short sentences. Number 2, play the recording. So it's very straightforward. Okay, right. Next, you need to use imperative rather than using passive voice. Okay, so avoid passive voice, use imperative. Okay, because imperative, it is going to be command. Okay, as the previous example here, record the session. So the word record here is actually the command. Okay, let's have a look at the example. In passive form over here, the weight of feed refusals should be recorded in the feeder notebook. So this is in the passive form. When you change it to imperative, record the weight of feed refusals in the feeder notebook. So though that the contents are still the same, but when you use imperative, okay, as you can see over here, record. So this is action verb. So it is a command, okay, or instructions. Okay, so it will be straightforward, and then the person who will be performing the task, they will know what to do. Okay, record the weight of the feed refusals in the feeder notebook. Okay, so I know I need to record the weight of the feed refusals in the notebook or in the feeder notebook. This is what I'm supposed to do. Okay, so please use imperative and not passive voice. Lastly, make sure that the words that you are using is concise. Concise meaning accurate. Okay, use short, direct sentences so that the readers can quickly understand and memorize the steps. Okay, so you need to do this. All right, make sure it is accurate, make sure it is concise, make sure it is straightforward. So that's all about the slides over here. So you can refer to this link to know more about standard operating procedure. Okay, all right. So any question?
Sir, the link can open, sir.
Cannot open?
No.
Okay, all right. If it is not working, I'll try to get the latest link and then I share it with all of you. Okay, in the Telegram group. Is it okay?
Okay.
All right. Any other question regarding SOP? Any other question? Okay, if you don't have any other question, so the last part for today, I'm going to talk about the Microsoft Word version of the standard operating procedure. So I am now sharing my screen with all of you. Okay. Right. So Unit 4 standard operating procedure. Okay, this is just on awareness activity. So you recently bought a flashing emergency light and you need to assemble its electrical components. So what do? Are you going to use your experience or logic, or are you going to read the manual? So in my case, I have no background knowledge on electrical components, especially on how to assemble it. So I need to refer to the manual. Okay, but maybe if you have a good background knowledge about electrical components and how to assemble it, then you don't have to read the manual anymore. Okay, all right. I'm not going to talk about the input over here because basically it has been explained by me in the previous session. Okay, I mean the slides before. Okay, so this is the sample format for a technical SOP that we are going to use for your next assessment. You must have all the 8 elements over here, okay, in it. Okay, all right. You need to have all of the 8 elements, number 1 until number 8 here. Okay, so number 1 here, how to write a technical SOP, reference number, the date, and the page number. Okay, right. The reference number, as it is stated there, depends on the questions that you are going to get later on for assessment 2. So each pair or each individual will be given different set of question paper for your next assessment, assessment 2A. Okay, so the reference number will depend on the question that you get. If it is stated in the question paper, then you can use the reference number. If it is not stated there, then you can just create your own reference number. Okay, the date should follow, right, to the date that the SOP is written. So let's say if it is written next Monday, so it is going to be on the 6th of December, for example, right? So, and then the page number here, okay, let's say this is the template, right? And then the end product of the SOP will consist of 5 pages altogether. Okay, so you have 5 pages of the SOP. So if you are referring to the first page of the SOP, it should be written 1 of 5, like this. Okay, why? Because when you are giving it to someone else, the SOP, then the people see or look at the front page of it, okay? So this is page number 1 out of 5. So they will know that there are 5 pages altogether for this particular SOP. Okay? Alright, there are 5 pages altogether. So if you give it to them and there are only 4 pages instead of 5, they will know that the SOP is incomplete because one of the pages is missing. Okay, so when you go to the second page, it is supposed to be written as, class question, if you go to the second page, how are you going to write the page number?
2 of 5.
Yes, that is how you're supposed to write it. Okay, if you go to the third page, it is going to be 3 of 5 up until the last page, which is 5 of 5. So do not forget about this. The reference number and the date, you can keep it similar to any of the pages that you are referring to. If it is the second page, the third page, the fourth page, and the final page, okay, the reference number and the date will still be the same, but the page number need to be changed accordingly. Okay, so if it is the second page, you're going to write it 2 of 5, for example. So if I have 7 pages, it's going to be the first page 1 of 7. Okay, up until the final page 7 of 7. Okay, that is about number 1. Okay, number 2, the title of the SOP should be written like this. Okay, example given here. Standard operating procedure for transferring liquid chemicals. So please take note on the linker verb. Okay, the linker's verb over here. The word for has been used. So please, when you are writing for the title of the SOP for the assessment later on, you use the word for. So standard operating procedure for what is the procedure. Okay, so that is going to be number 2. And we have the activities over here. You can do activity 4.2 on your own. Okay. Number 3, department or unit. Okay, this must be written as well. So this SOP, write it like this, has been written for the research and development laboratory. Or you can also write it like this. This SOP is written for the research and development laboratory. So either or either method over here, either this one or this one can be accepted. No problem. Okay. Activity 4.3. Okay, you can do this on your own. Right, the purpose here, number 4, you need to have number 1 as the most. Okay, meaning that it is very important. If you don't have it, then your SOP is incorrect. Okay, so marks will be deducted if you don't have number 1 in purpose here. The aim or function of the SOP. Okay, specific audience or the regulatory standards of the safety measure is just optional. You can have it, marks will be given. If you don't have it, no marks will be deducted. Okay, examples given here. The purpose of this SOP is to provide instructions for the safe use of 50% sulfuric acid to prevent spills, harmful vapors, and injury to the worker and environment. Okay, the one being underlined here is the specific audience. Okay, all right, and then the one in bold here is the aim or the function of the SOP. Why do we need to have the SOP? Okay, to provide instructions for the safe use of 50% sulfuric acid. So you need to have that. Okay, so you can continue with activity 4.4. Number 5, okay, the person who can perform the job, it depends, okay. If it is stated in the question paper, then you can just follow it. If it is not stated, then you can create it accordingly. Meaning that, okay, you will know these are the people who will be performing the task. So you're going to mention it in number 5 here. Okay, even though it is not given in the question paper, you can think rationally. Okay, all right, you can continue with activity 4.5. Then we move on to number 6. PPE tools and reference materials. Okay, I'm going to talk only about reference materials over here. PPE and tools, if it is stated in the question paper, use it straight away. If it is not stated in the question paper, okay, for the next assessment, assessment 2A, you are given opportunity to refer to other materials. Okay, let's say from internet sources. So the materials that you are using may be stated what kind of PPE or tools required for the procedure. So you can use the one stated there. Okay, right. Since that it is stated there that you need to refer to other sources, okay, so any sort of reading or reference materials that can be suggested or that has been referred to when the SOP was written need to be stated in reference materials. Okay, you have the question, but somehow you are referring for further information, okay, to the internet sources, for example, then you need to make sure you put the link or you put the name of the document that you are referring to in the reference materials. Is it clear, class?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then you have activity 4.6. Okay. Number 7, procedure. So in the procedure part, there are 3 types of SOP or format that you can do. Okay. But for your next assessment, assessment 2, okay, we are going to deal only with graphic SOP. So do your reading on graphic SOP. But for the exercises, we are going to learn, okay, and also for the notes, we are going to learn about flowchart and also hierarchical SOP. Okay, for the assessment, it is going to be graphic operating procedure or graphic SOP. Okay, so person in charge, right, you need to write the name, the full name of the person who will be preparing the SOP, who will be reviewing the SOP, and who will be approving the SOP. Okay, full name, signature, and designation. Okay, let's have a look at the example given above here in the template. See? Okay, all right. Prepared by, let's say this is your name. Okay, so you write your full name. Don't forget to put your signature here. Okay, and then you need to write your name. Okay, plus your designation. What is designation?
Position.
Your position in the company. Okay, your job title. So perhaps you are the technician. Okay, so the person who will be reviewing your document, okay, maybe he or she, all right, will be the senior technician. Okay, signature, name, followed by the position. All right, approved by, okay, maybe approved by the general manager, for example. This is how you're supposed to write it. Okay, right. Okay, let's have a look at the example of a flowchart SOP. So flowchart over here, the flowchart SOP, we are going to, or the concern will be on the shapes of the information here. So if it is in this particular shape, it means that it is the terminator, the start and the stop point. So you have it here, start and stop or end. Okay, all right. And then if you have this rectangle shape, it is actually on the process. Okay, description of action taken. So we have start here, then you go to the first process, which is hit the engine for 5 minutes. So that is the process. Okay, and you're going to put it in rectangle. If you have this diamond shape, okay, if you have this diamond shape, it is on decision. Okay, whether to do this or to do that. All right. So you have this process, hit the engine for 5 minutes. Then you have the diamond shape here. Are there any problematic sounds? Okay, you need to decide. If your answer is yes, then you need to go to the next process. Okay, next process over here. Then you go to the desired process here. If your answer is no, then you can straight away go to the process required over here. Okay, that is on flowchart SOP. Okay, right. And this is how you're going to put it in your template. Okay, the template for the assessment. Okay, the template that we are teaching you, the general template, and it may be different from the one that you're going to have later on when you're going to start working. Okay, so the reference number here, the date the SOP was written, okay, and then the page number. So this is page 1 out of 3 pages. Okay, so as you can see over here, you can go through it. Under procedure, this is where you're going to put the flow chart. Right? So the same goes for, okay, before that, prepared by the QC engineer, reviewed by senior QC engineer, and approved by general manager. Okay, right. So the same goes for graphic SOP over here. Where to put it? In procedure. Okay, but for graphic SOP, it will be a bit different because you have to arrange the information from left to right. Flowchart from top to bottom. And in between, you can have other processes. But for graphic operating procedure, it is from left to right. Okay, so we have 4 stages over here before alignment, up until after alignment. You arrange it from left to right. For each of the stage over here, before alignment, under it, you're going to have this kind of appearance whereby you're going to put the process and procedures for each of the stage. Okay, so step number 1, assure lab is secured. Step number 2, mark the laboratory's door with the notice sign. Okay, what makes it different from flowchart SOP? In graphic SOP, you are going to put the images or the graphics for each of the process or procedure that you can get. For example here, step number 2, mark the laboratory's door with the notice sign. What is the, or where is the picture of the notice sign? This is the picture of the notice sign. Laser alignment in progress. Do not enter eye protection required. Okay, so that will be the picture of the notice sign. So if your first process over here is asking the people who will be performing the task to wear personal protective equipment, then you need to state it over here, or you need to put the picture of a person wearing the safety goggle, for example, or safety boots. Okay, so this is how you're going to write for graphic SOP. Then we have hierarchical SOP. So it's very straightforward. You put it into numbers. Step number 1. Okay, what are the small steps that you need to perform task number 1 or procedure number 1, then number 2, and so on until the end of it. And this is how you can transfer the information into the template for hierarchical SOP. So it's the same. Okay, all right. So we also have additional activities for you to complete so that you will know in detail how you can work on SOP. Okay, if you scroll down towards the end of the pages, okay, it's going to be the input tips for listening. Okay, so go through the notes on tips for listening, because why? Your assessment will be listening. Okay, so assessment 2 is divided into 2 parts. Part A and Part B. Part A is going to be the SOP, which you're going to work in pairs or individually. Part B is going to be listening test, and it will be conducted individually. I mean, of course, I'm going to have all of you to be seated at the same time, but the marks will be given individually for assessment 2B. Okay? Right. Any questions so far, class?
So, yang assessment 2B that you said individual kan? We need to explain the SOP.
No.
No.
Assessment 2B is going to be listening, meaning that you just sit, okay, you just listen to the recording, and then you just look at the question paper. The sample of, the answers are given there. You just need to pick which one is going to be the best answer.
Okay.
Okay, so you just listen to the recording for 2 times. The recording will be played twice. So you listen to it, then you just need to answer the question straight away. Okay, that is going to be for assessment 2B. Right, any other question?
For now, I don't have a question.
Okay, all right. Muhammad Amiruddin bin Muhammad Zamri, you are here, right? Muhammad Amiruddin? I think you are here because you replied, yeah, okay, bad connection. Right, so you are here actually. Okay, class? So if you don't have any other question, I believe that's all for today. But if you feel there is a need to ask anything, so do not afraid. Okay, thank you, Amiruddin. Okay, thank you. Right, if there is any other question later on, feel free to ask me in the Telegram group. Okay, all right. So that's all from me. Thank you very much for joining the class today. Enjoy your breakfast and then stay safe. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you,
Alright.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Doctor.
You're welcome, everyone. Assalamualaikum. Goodbye.
Thank you, sir. Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you, sir. Waalaikumsalam.
Everyone, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Class, the class is over. You can leave the session now. Ikmal Tasnim, Muhammad Fahmi, Aiman Samsul, Zaharul Danish. Thank you, Aiman. Yes, I have to drink a lot of vitamin C. Thank you, thank you. Okay, you too, stay safe. All right. Ridwan Latif, Muhammad Faidil Mubarak, Aiman Samsul, Ikmal Tasnim, okay, Arif. You can leave the session now.
Okay, sir.
All right. Or I'm going to remove you. Okay, so I'm going to stop the recording now.